All right, welcome back to the Gemini 888 channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most enjoyable pro wrestling tapes that I remember renting from the video stores when I was a young kid. 1989. I must have rented this tape like 6 to 10 times. And the funny thing is, back then, if it was out of the video store, you had to wait for someone to bring it back. So basically, a lot of times if you wanted to see SummerSlam 89, sometimes you'd be calling the video store all day to see if the person had returned it yet. And the tapes didn't come out till like 6 months after the event. So it was probably somewhere around August of 90 before I first saw them. Almost a year before I was able to finally obtain this, because the video stores back in the day were extremely difficult to rent from. You had to wait 6 months for the event to come out, and then sometimes you had to wait 6 months at the video store just to be able to see it, because the tape was so hot around town. The video stores would get 1 to 2 copies, and it was difficult to obtain it. But SummerSlam 89 was one of the most enjoyable events that I remember renting as a kid. I always really loved this event, whether it was Jimmy Superfly Snuka and the $1 Million Man, whether it was the big match with Zeus and Savage versus Hogan and Beefcake, or I'm trying to remember all the matches here. The Brainbusters were there. You know, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, they just had won the tag team titles from Demolition on Saturday night's main event, so I wanted to see them, and they were wrestling the Hart Foundation. All in all, really a spectacular event. Yeah, I think one of the coolest matches too was Rick Rude and Brutus the Barber, or Rick Rude and Ultimate Warriors for the Intercontinental Championship. And if you remember, Rude had won the belt at WrestleMania 5 earlier in the year, April, in Atlantic City at WrestleMania 5. Rude had won the belt with Bobby the Brain Heenan's help. And so Warrior chased the belt all summer, and Rick Rude was getting in shape. It was actually a great feud. And some say the most memorable match of SummerSlam 89 was the Intercontinental match. That was my favorite match too. If you guys think some of the wrestlers now get a crowd reaction, it's nothing like the crowd reaction that Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior got in the Meadowlands at SummerSlam 89. I mean, the reception for it was through the roof. And of course that leads to the big main event, of course, Hogan and Beefcake, and Zeus and the Macho Man. That kind of all got started on Saturday night's main event earlier in the year, when Zeus attacked Hulk Hogan right before they had this big steel cage match. And so Zeus and Hogan were having some problems. Savage was already a heel coming off WrestleMania 5. And so Savage tags up with Zeus. They're doing nasty stuff to Hogan. They're doing nasty stuff to Beefcake. They have a big blowout on Saturday night's main event. Finally, they have the big tag match at SummerSlam. And, you know, the WWF at the time was portraying Zeus, Tiny Lister from Friday fame, as unbeatable. And so finally at the end of the match, you know, Hogan slams Zeus, beats Zeus, and then, you know, the Barber and Elizabeth and Hogan, you know, they all cut off Sensational Sherry's hair, and Tony Schiavone just loses his mind. He really does. He just loses his mind. But it has a strong mid-card too. I mean, they had some really strong mid-card players. Dusty Rhodes and the Honky Tonk Man. And if you remember at the end of the match, Honky gets blasted with the guitar. It's funny too, because Jimmy Hart blasts him with a guitar, and then he's walking up the ramp and he's talking about, oh Priscilla, because he's all messed up from selling the guitar shot. Jimmy Snuka and the $1 Million Man. I used to love watching Jimmy Snuka come off the top rope with that splash. It was pretty sensational to watch. Red Rooster and Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect went over. He was just coming up at the time. Mr. Perfect was so good. He really was. Hercules and Greg the Hammer Valentine, that had some Ronnie Garvin stuff in it. Good opening tag match. Tito Santana and the Rockers versus Rick Martel and the Fabulous Rougeaus. Over 3 hours. And this is actually the Coliseum home video of it. Really a memorable event. If you say like the old school style of wrestling. But if you're looking for something on the WWE Network, I would highly recommend SummerSlam 89. I think it's something you would really enjoy. It's one of the coolest tapes I own. Nothing but good memories from this event. And this was the generation when I was coming up. as a lifelong wrestling fan of just finally being able to rent this tape, finally going home and watching the Coliseum home video on it, and just loving it. And so, you know, later on, because it was such a treasure for me to get this tape as a kid. Later on, as an adult, I had to go back and buy that. Like, whoa, I remember the trials and tribulation just being able to rent that tape as a kid and how difficult it was. Yeah, all that stuff about the video stores is all legit. It really is. Like having to wait almost a year for the event to come out, having to call the video stores all day just to see if it's available to be rented. It was a struggle. It was a struggle. I mean, my parents didn't want to rent this tape for me. They're busy, you know, working, doing whatever they were doing. And I bugged them, and I bugged them, and I bugged them. And sometimes I would bug them so much about renting this tape as a kid, you know, I would get in trouble for it. But all in all, it was worth getting in trouble for, bugging them so much to see it. And that's how hardcore of a wrestling fan that I am. So anyways, I'll snap some pictures of the tape. It's available on the WWE Network today. You don't have to buy the VHS tape. It's available on the SummerSlam, you know, cooler set and all that good stuff. So there's no need to get the VHS tape, but good memory. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.